So, I recently finished my playthrough of God of War 1 for the PS2. It is a. God of War 1 is a very fun game, right? I want to make that clear. You should go back and play God of War 1. The problem, the fucking problem with God of War 1 is the game has such a bad ending segment. So, this game has no idea what difficulty scaling is. There's maybe like, I think it's three bosses. Yeah, it's three bosses throughout the game. And when you hit each of these bosses, the difficulty goes like, so we're going from like this and whoop, and then back down and whoop, and back down and whoop, fucking through the absolute ceiling, but then back down. So the early bosses are fine. Like, the Hydra boss teaches you how the game works. It's supposed to be difficult. You're like 5 minutes into the game. You have no idea what you're doing. You don't even understand how block mechanics work, but it teaches you how that works. Then you go eventually to the Minotaur boss. I fucking hate the Minotaur boss. Luckily, you can cheese the boss by standing up on the upper ledge. But the final segment, when you're fighting, I'm just going to spoil God of War 1, 20-year-old game. You fight Ares. It's not a spoiler because it's literally set up at the start of the game. You fight Ares. Now, first stage Ares is difficult, but mostly difficult because the game doesn't actually teach you how to block most of the way through. It probably made more sense if I was playing it back in God of War 1 2005, 2001. I think it's 2005, but I'm not sure. God of War 1. Wait, maybe I'm thinking of DMC 1 that's 2001. Yeah, God of War 1 is 2005. So, first stage of fighting Ares. Most of the annoyance, it comes down to the way I was blocking. And the way I was blocking is sort of based around more modern gaming, like Dark Souls. So when you block an attack, you can, like, you know, do a counter to parry sort of thing. When I was doing the blocks, I was, like, tapping the button when the attack came in. You don't have to do that. I didn't realize this. You can actually just hold down the button, and it will block the attack. Same with things like getting... some of the enemies will have, like, a fire breath, for example, and Ares does this. And you can block the entire fire attack, but I didn't realize this. I thought you'd, like, tap a bunch of times to block the attack. I've constantly been hit by it and didn't realize what the problem was. But once I learned that, the rest of the fight was pretty easy. Now, it was easy until you get to the second stage. Second stage is the worst designed thing I think I've ever seen. So, your wife and kid or something, I don't fucking care, are being attacked by a bunch of clones of Kratos. And you, as the real Kratos, have to fight the clones while making sure their health doesn't run out. If you want to heal them, you can hug them and transfer your life essence or something over to them. The problem is this segment goes on way too long. So you start in this house, and then the house sort of, like, crumbles away, and the floor crumbles away. If it crumbles away when you're standing on it, you die. And if you go back to the start. But the floor crumbles away, and you're left with this tiny arena. And these clones of Kratos will spawn, and they spawn for, like, a good 5-10 minute segment. And it's not like one or two. Like, there are bits where you're fighting like 5 or 10 at a time, and they will all attack your family at the same time. So you can have your wife go from full health to like a quarter health in a second. So you never want them to be anywhere near your family. So the strat that I found, and if I didn't have at least a little bit of magic left, I would never have done this. I just spammed Rage of the Gods, Poseidon's Wrath, and Army of Hades. And this got me through. But it took me about an hour on this one segment. And it fucking made me so... I was so annoyed. I was actually getting ready to, like, drop the game and never play God of War again for the rest of my life. It was so bad. Like, I have never seen a segment of a game that was so poorly thought through. And considering earlier aspects of the game, I feel like it was designed in this way to be annoying. So there are a lot of cases where the game will put intentionally annoying enemies grouped up together. So you have these like big ogre looking dudes that have a big hammer, which is annoying as hell. You can't block it, you have to dodge, but it'll also spawn these little dogs. And the dogs, when they turn to big dogs, turn into Cerberus. But they can also like spit out babies from their mouth. So they're literally a mob spawning more mobs, and you have to kill them when they are small, otherwise you will never kill them. It is such a bad enemy, but mixing these two together is so much worse. Or when they have like a room of Medusas, and they, if they like use their stare ability, you know, Medusa can turn things to stone. If they stare at you long enough, then you turn to stone. But if they're multiple staring at you, you turn to stone quicker. And if they attack you when you're turned to stone, you instantly die. Doesn't matter how much health you have, instantly die. Things like that is really annoying. And this room, I feel like, was designed in that same sort of fashion, where it was designed to just piss you off and make you hate the game. Because at this point, there was like 10 minutes of the game actually left over. So I eventually got through this segment, and I was like, oh god, it's gonna get so much worse. This is gonna be awful, I'm gonna die, what's gonna happen? And then on the second try, I beat the final boss. So first stage took me about 30 to 45 minutes, just because I was bad at blocking. Second stage, at least an hour, maybe like an hour 10. Third stage, done basically straight away. So third stage, you actually couldn't die in the same way. So your health bar was linked with Ares. So as you did more damage, Ares lost health. If he did damage to you, you would lose health. So it's like this sort of tug of war, and the goal is to make Ares run out of health, and then you can do like your big finisher. That section was fine. Like, totally fine. No issue whatsoever. I did have some issues with the blocking feeling a little bit funky. But I don't know if that was just me, or the game just straight up being a bit funky. Either way, it was annoying. But overall, I think you should go back and play God of War 1. Like, it's a really fun game that, for the most part, has aged pretty well. Like, you know how you go play a lot of like PS2 action games. It's not just PS2 games in general. Like, there's some PS2 games that age really well, like Most Wanted, fucking great game. But go and play a PS2 action game. A lot of action games aged a little bit rough. Yeah, a little bit rough is probably a good way to put it. But God of War 1, you can see that it changed throughout the games, and obviously really changed when they did the reboot of the series. But God of War 1 set the foundation for what God of War 2, 3, and Ghost of Sparta, and there might be another game, went ahead to do.